on Wednesday of March 30th, talking about the Panama and U.S. free trade agreement. One of the things that he said is that, size is not destiny. I mean, we're a very small country, but as you say, Caterpillar exported more U.S. products to Panama than Korea. And that has a lot to do, of course, with the fact that Korea manufactures a lot of the same products that the U.S. manufactures. I know you right now are in the process of analyzing whether it is convenient or not to sign or ratify free trade agreements with Colombia, Panama, and South Korea. Well, this is a statement that comes from one of the CEOs of one of the most important companies in the U.S. And it also goes into the fact that Latin America increased 58%. So we're looking really at trade, increasing trade not only from Asia but also from Latin America, and that has to be added to any study that you do regarding your trading capabilities in the Gulf. This chart tells a story. These are the U.S. Exports and percentage growth, and you can see where Latin America is with regard to some other partners. And this, of course, is telling you the leading global. This goes back to dollars, so you can see that in terms of dollars, the U.S. have really fallen. In terms of goods, continues to lead in terms of overall exports. But if you really want to increase your exports of goods, then what is really needed is to put your money where mouth is. Infrastructure is really what you need. Improve your infrastructure, your connectivity. One of the things that I just came back from Palm Beach from participating in a conference, and the governor of Florida was there. And there was a lot of discussion around him sacrificing or not going along with the money for the high-speed rail versus putting that money in the dredging of the port. And it gets back to that. What is it that long-term has more transcendental effect? If you really have an export initiative, well, China, the first thing they did to become a real contender in global trade was to invest in its infrastructure, to develop new ports, to develop connectivity, railroads, to develop logistics centers, and so on. And I really think that that is what allows them now to be more competitive than anything else and anybody else in those BRIC countries. In fact, I think that at the end of the day, they have been able to move further than anybody else because of the connectivity and infrastructure that they were able to develop. So in summary, and as I said, I'll have a lot more pictures to present of the project and its advancement, but I can do that while I entertain some of your questions. Basically, we all agree, and I think that there's no question about it, that globalization fundamentals are here to stay. And as long as that happens, of course, then we need to take into account that everything will be moving by transport, and the more fluid you have the pipeline of your supply chains, the more competitive you're going to be. And of course, the economies of scale derived from the expansion of the canal and the deployment of larger vessels have a lot of benefits that can be taken into account to improve that competitiveness. And the last one, of course, has to do with the advertisement of our free trade agreement, in case you have the opportunity to say something about it. So, questions answered. If you want, I can just briefly go through this slide of what the project entails. The expansion of the canal is making use of the existing canal and the existing navigable channels. So we're not building a new canal. We're using the same lakes. We're using exactly the same route. We're just adding a new lock, as you see here in the slide, in the Atlantic, a new lock in the Pacific. And everything else is deepening and widening of entrances, deepening and widening of the channel. And also we're going to elevate the main lake that feeds the water to the loss by 1.5 feet. Okay? Question?
This will come to the North American Corridor Coalition, the I-35 corridor. From the market extension of the expansion, the corner, southeast Texas corner was kind of shadowed out. And I was wondering, did that exclude Houston? Was that from Corpus Christi down, or how far would that reach?
No, it includes Houston. This is something that is very interesting. When you look at the rail connectivity, I think that the split is right there, where you come from the West Coast railroads, and then you have, I didn't show it here, but the Norfolk Southern network is coming down, and also you have Canadian National coming down to Mobile, and you have CSX also involved. Well, it seems like the actual break is right in between the two, where the two networks arrive at a hub. And I can say, for instance, that Houston is part of it. Houston is not well connected to the West Coast, but Dallas is. So, yeah, you have to make that analysis yourself as to whether the benefits of the larger ship can really be taken all the way to Dallas if there is no connectivity or not good connectivity from those ports.
It's my understanding that China is having an agreement with Colombia to develop a second channel going through Colombian territory. Let's read an article about it, and I know that this is about to happen or potential impact that would have.
Well,
Can you repeat the question so that everyone can?
oh, sure. The question is about the news that came out about China developing a railroad to compete with the canal, developing a railroad in Colombia. First of all, I think that there are two conflicting views on that. China has a lot of interest in Colombia's natural resources. And they want to build the railroads to facilitate the movement of those minerals to port. That is really the real objective. Competing with the Panama Canal is not only secondary, it's going to be very difficult. We already have a dry canal in Panama. I mean, we have a railroad that moves from one ocean to the other, right parallel to the canal that connects both ports, Atlantic and Pacific. And what you have right now is that is not competing. We have one that doesn't, right alongside, that doesn't compete. Because it adds time, it adds cost, and it is really not an economic alternative. Now, think of that other project, which is supposedly going to cost about $700 billion. No, $700 million, of course. But when you take that into account, that doesn't really provide an answer to the shipping line, because the shipping line will want to bring the full vessel and move the full vessel across. They don't, these ideas about emptying completely and filling on the other side completely, they don't really make economic sense. So, yeah, we applaud their initiative in the sense that I think that everybody should be working to improve their infrastructure to facilitate trade, but not necessarily as a competitor for the canal.